Hey folks, new project today. I'm going to service my electric water heater. Should do these every 2, 3, 4 years. I'm going to do 3 things. First, I'm going to change the anode rod, which is a rod that comes down through the water heater that helps with the chemical process of make sure you don't get a lot of reaction inside your water heater tub. And I have a new anode rod here. I'll show you. Last time I checked it was in 11/21, so it's a couple years old. Second thing I'm going to do is flush the water heater, see if there's any particulates, look for granules, and then just have the water run into the flower bed. And third, I'll check a little bit on the continuity of the elements, make sure they're still doing well. First step, shut the power off. Pull this little switch. Note also that those hot plugs in there are still hot. What you're supposed to do really is put them back in upside down. It says off on the top, that's how you can tell. So the power's off. I'm going to turn on the hot water on this side to release some of the pressure. I'm going to shut the cold water off. Inbound water. You can tell that's cold and that's hot just by the feel of it. And I'm going to release a little pressure. Okay. So, release the anode rod first, because if it's hard to get out with all this water in here, it keeps the water heater from trying to turn. If you try to flush it and empty it first, it's a pain to get that rod out. Well, this anode rod that I have in here, you can see there's another video when I install it. It actually has a protrudes out, but the threads that hold it in there are down inside of here. So it looks like I'm going to have to grab this with a pipe wrench or pliers to open this up. I guess the more traditional anode rod has a head on here. You'd use a socket. I'll have to use that to tighten it. I only have a little bit of clearance room in this closet, so I have to buy this bent anode rod that will go down in here. See, the last one I had was aluminum. This one is magnesium. I think these are actually better quality. Like I said, there's another video when I first installed this, but if you're doing this for the first time, you'll see a plastic thing on top of your water heater. It's a Rheem. And then there's some foam you have to dig out to actually get to the nut head. There are different ones. Make sure you get the right one. If you're not sure, call the manufacturer to make sure you're unscrewing the right thing. Okay, looks like we're loose. And then you see some corrosion. So here comes a judgment for you. Some people say if you see any corrosion like this building up, then it's time to change it. And if you see corrosion like that, then we should see corrosion in the bottom of the tank. First time I had water heater problems, I didn't know anything about anode rods. When the plumber came out and charged me $150, he pulled out the anode rod and it was that thin. Everything was gone except the internal wire. This one's a little less than 2 years old, so I'll probably save it. I'll put a new one in. Maybe I can scrape some of this off, but looks bad, but I've seen them worse. Here's another tip to think about. If you see the buildup is primarily on the top of your anode rod, that could be an indicator that your bottom thermostat or element are not working correctly. And conversely, if you see all the buildup on the bottom, but not on the top, it's an indicator that your top element or thermostat may not be working correctly. On closer inspection, you can see it's actually decayed on the inside. And if you look at a couple of these pits, the holes go really deep, like right here, right there. So sometimes I save these things in case of emergency, but I'm not saving this one. I just soon buy a new one and save it. We're going to put 2 wraps of Teflon tape on the threads. Push them on there. The threads come through. We don't want any rust getting on here and having this seize up, because that's really painful to get back out, if you can even get it back out the next time you check it. To put this back on, I bought a 1 1/16 socket head. That's what's needed for these. When we put this back in, of course, we'll fold it up. Put the bottom in first. Remember, it's still full of really hot water. So when you drop this now, when you put the nut on it, you want to make sure it's not cockeyed. So you may have to play with the nut in the socket to make sure this goes down straight. So there's a little tip. I'm going to put some paper towel over the nut head and get the screw on top of it and try and give it a little, so it won't drop out and I can get the thread in correctly. So I'm going to put it down in here like this. That made the nut head attach quickly. I took the paper towel off. Now I can put this back on. Tighten it up. Now you want it to be tight. There's going to be a little water pressure in the water heater, but you don't want to put it so tight that you can't get it back on, like I said, especially if there's a speck of rust that develops. So what we'll do, we tighten it up, we'll turn everything back on, check for leaks, see if we need to put a little bit more on. But you know, it's stopped. I could probably go a little more, but I'm not going to. Next step, I'm going to attach a hose here, flush this. You're sort of a passive flush, where you're going to hook the hose up, take the other end, and put it out somewhere where you're not going to damage anything with hot water, including yourselves. Then there's a power flush. We do the same thing, except we turn the water back on and force it to come out the bottom faster. We're going to do both. You should have something that looks like this in your water heater. Okay, I have that attached. Let's take the hose outside. One's going out the back window. I have a little cloth attached. You can use nylon stockings or sock or nothing, as long as you could try to see how much particulate you have. The water will just run out there somewhere. Okay, next step is to loosen up the water. Now, if you don't get flow, it won't be fast when you open this, but you should get flow out of the end of the hose. Sometimes if you have crud, this thing gets clogged up. So what you want to do is open it and close it to crush the crud again until you get a little bit of a flow. I can hear the water. I can hear it coming through. So this is what I mean. Sometimes you just, if you're getting buildup, close it again. It'll dislodge some of that stuff. All right, let's go look at the other end of the hose. Coming out. We'll let it drain slowly for a while. I'm surprisingly pleased that I don't see more particulates than that. It is some stuff. You should know if you have an electric water heater, that's what the bottom looks like. When I told you my anode rod was like a wire, and I cleaned it out, I had probably half a gallon, a big mound of this gravel looking stuff. So what I'm going to do is put this cover back on the hose, and I'm going to do a power flush. Okay, for the power flush, turn this pressure relief valve off. We've got all the faucets off. We have this open up. Now I'm going to go back up here, turn the water on. Nothing. So here's a sign if you have buildup. Again, should sound nice and smooth, but it's going clickety-clack. Be sure not to turn that. The handle will come out and you have water everywhere. I think that's particulates getting caught and then flushed out. Trying to sound smoother. All right. One more time. That sounds like a full force faucet. We'll keep running it so you can hear the different sounds. So that should be good. Let's close this and go look at the bag. Yeah, so you see a little bag of it. That's in the bottom of the water heater. That's what's clogging up the faucet. That comes out of the water. What kind of weird goop in here? That's part of the bag. That's a lot of stuff. So I'm going to let this run a little more without the bag, just to make sure it's flushed out pretty well. I think it's clean. I see nothing coming out of the water now on a power flush. You can hear that's running really well. It's cleaned out. Shut that off. Put the safety cap on. And take. Right, the anode rod is dry. I felt all around in here. There's a little cap. If you're having an anode rod head that's a little lower, put a couple bends in a piece of stiff wire. Go down underneath it. And lift it up so you can grab it with your fingers. Like that right there. I switched water heaters for a second because I'm doing both of them today. I'm going to test the continuity of the element. I have the breaker off, I have the power switch off, and I've disconnected these two wires. I don't want any wires coming in there because they may show continuity. I only want to go into the loop inside of the element and test it. So I'm going to get my little test tool, put it on ohms, and I'm going to touch these heads of the element. Okay, that's continuity. You can switch if you want to, it doesn't matter. Okay, that means the elements have a continuous loop, which means they're good from a structural perspective. I'll put a couple videos, links down below. There are a couple that explain how to test all this wiring. It's not too hard. You just need to be really safe, make sure the power's off. But there are different places through the reset area, and then this thermostat switch, you want to make sure there's continuity also if you're seeing problems. And again, problems may be I'm not getting enough hot water, meaning doesn't last long, or the water's not hot enough. And that could indicate bad elements or bad switches or thermostats up here. Okay, take a look at the links I provide. I have this draining still on slow flush, passive flush. When I think it's down below here, which I'm never really sure how to tell, I'm going to take this element out and inspect it. I have a special tool to take the elements out with. It's got a big old head on it. Okay. If you didn't take enough water out, you're going to know pretty quickly because it's going to spill everywhere. And there's the element. Okay. So they do discolor really quickly. They're supposed to be a silver color, but I don't see any nicks or anything on here. I'm just going to rinse this off. This looks like it's still good. Now when you're putting this back in, kind of push it in there gently. And the secret is to, before you start turning this nut head, you want to make sure it's not tilted in either direction. Okay, I got it caught a little bit. There we go. Just going to get it caught perpendicular to that hole. By the way, I turned this wire around. It was going that way, which means I was tightening it in the opposite direction of the wire bend, and I made it go straight down along this little piece here. It holds it in tighter. Power's still off. We'll close the pressure relief valve. Turn the water on. Mention here any leaks. And then I'm going to open this up. The other water heater, this thing turns several times, and this water heater, it turns a quarter way only. No links around the anode rod tops. And this is the anode rod from the second water heater. You can see it was spent. Remember I told you sometimes when it's wasted at one end and not at the other, it's a sign of a bad thermostat. Well, I checked in detail, not shown in this video, but they're okay. It's just the way it's wearing. Sometimes it wears in one direction or the other. Let's look what kind of goop we have. Same stuff. Maybe a little discolor. This is a little browner, I think. So, and it's sandier. The other one was whiter. Fortunately, when you have a water heater and you're filling and using, I don't think it gets as agitated, I'm not sure, as a power flush. What is that thing? But in any case, power flush gets it all out. Let's smell it. It smells like sand. Freaky. Clean your water heaters out. Little footnote number one. I sawed some off of that second water heater to get it to fit. Sawed that much and then that much. Now it fits.
It's not like
yes. Yeah.
You know.
This one was pointed out to me. This anode rod water heater is the one where the washer, the laundry washer is hooked up to, so it has a lot of volume coming through, plus 2 showers. This one is, and then possibly the kitchen sink. So this one's least used. This is over in the master side of the house. So the only thing here is a guest bathroom, master bathroom.